My job was simple on paper. Senior financial analyst at Prescott and Associates. But the reality was different. I was Audrey, the invisible safety net that kept the firm from being sued while my manager Sloan collected bonuses and promotions. Every night, I stayed late reviewing contracts, double-checking compliance documents, and fixing errors that could cost millions. I knew every tax code, every regulation, every loophole. Sloan knew how to smile in meetings and take credit for my work. She'd present my analyses to partners like they were her brilliant insights. I told myself it was fine. I was building experience, learning the business. One day people would see my value. I was wrong. They saw my value perfectly. That's exactly why Sloan needed to destroy me before I became a threat to her carefully constructed facade of competence. Project Titan landed in February. A $50 million commercial development account that would make or break our year. The client wanted to build across 5 states, each with different tax codes and compliance requirements. Sloan was named the project lead and spent the announcement meeting talking about her vision for success. I was assigned as support staff. That meant I did everything. I tracked the multi-state filings, coordinated with tax attorneys, built spreadsheets that mapped every deadline and requirement. Sloan attended lunch meetings with the client and posted photos on LinkedIn about leading transformative projects. At night, she'd email me questions that proved she didn't understand basic tax law. Can we just file everything in Delaware to keep it simple? No, Sloan. That's not how interstate commerce works. But I'd explain patiently, fix her mistakes, and watch her present my solutions as her own the next morning. I found the problem on a Tuesday night in March. The budget spreadsheet didn't balance. I ran the numbers 3 times, checked every line item, traced every allocation. There was a hole. $1.2 million that couldn't be accounted for. Money that had been allocated but never properly documented. It violated about 15 different compliance regulations. I scheduled a meeting with Sloan first thing Wednesday morning. She was eating a croissant when I showed her the spreadsheet. We have a serious issue with Project Titan's budget structure. She barely glanced at it. Audrey, you're being a buzzkill. These things always work themselves out. I pointed to the exact figure. This is $1 million discrepancy. We need to report it and restructure before. She cut me off. Just bury it in the overhead costs. Spread it across different line items. Nobody checks that closely. My stomach dropped. That's fraud, Sloan. She smiled. That's business. Handle it. I didn't handle it the way she wanted. Instead, I started building my insurance policy. I enabled the screen recording feature on my laptop and called Sloan for a quick clarification. I asked her directly about the budget discrepancy. Her voice came through crystal clear. I need you to fudge the numbers, Audrey. Make it look legitimate. That's what I pay you for. I saved the recording in 3 different encrypted locations. Then I started a folder on my personal laptop titled, Just in Case. Every questionable email from Sloan went in there. Every edited document where she'd removed compliance warnings I'd added. Every text message where she told me to stop overthinking regulations. I BCC'd my personal email on every important correspondence. I documented timestamps, screenshots, original files. I didn't know if I'd ever need it. But I knew Sloan was the type of person who'd throw anyone under the bus to save herself. The office atmosphere changed overnight. One day, Sloan was her usual fake-friendly self. The next Monday, she walked past my desk without acknowledging me. I wasn't invited to the weekly strategy meeting. My access to certain shared folders was suddenly, temporarily restricted. I saw Sloan whispering with the senior partners in the hallway, glancing my way. My coworker Marcus pulled me aside at lunch. What did you do? Sloan's telling everyone you've been making errors on Project Titan. My chest tightened. I'd made 0 errors. Every single filing had been perfect. What kind of errors? Marcus looked uncomfortable. She's saying you've been sloppy with documentation, missing deadlines. She's building a case for something. Felt cold. This was how it started. First, they destroyed your reputation. Then they destroyed your career. I went home that night and backed up my entire just-in-case folder to the cloud. Sloane's trap came on a Friday evening. Most people had left for the weekend. She called me into her office, looking stressed. "Audrey, I need a huge favor. There's a tiny clerical error on one of my filings, but I'm locked out of the system. The IT department already left. Can you log in as me and fix it? I'll give you my password." Everything in my gut screamed danger. Why can't it wait until Monday? She gave me a pleading look. "The client needs it first thing Saturday morning. Please. It'll take 2 minutes." She wrote her password on a sticky note. Against my better judgment, I logged into her account and made the correction she described. It was simple, just a date change on a form. I logged out and went home. I didn't know until Monday that she'd used those 2 minutes to transfer her access to sensitive files full of fraudulent entries, making it look like I'd been the one managing them all along. Monday morning I arrived at 8 sharp. My badge wouldn't work at the door. Security had to manually let me in. I knew immediately something was wrong. My phone rang before I reached my desk. "Audrey, you need to come to conference room A immediately." The voice was the CEO's assistant. My hands shook as I walked down the hallway. Inside the room sat the CEO, the head of security, our legal counsel, and Sloane. She was dabbing her eyes with a tissue, looking devastated. My heart hammered. This was it. Whatever she'd planned, it was happening now. CEO gestured to a chair. "Sit down, Audrey. We have some very serious questions about your activities over the past few weeks." Sloane looked at me with fake sympathy. I looked right back at her, keeping my face neutral. She had no idea what was coming. Sloane's performance was worthy of an award. She explained, voice shaking, how she'd discovered a terrible discrepancy in Project Titan's accounts. $1.2 million had been transferred to a shell company. "I didn't want to believe it at first," she said, fresh tears appearing. "But the evidence is clear." The head of security pushed a folder toward me. Inside were transaction logs showing money transferred to an entity called Meridian Consulting LLC. The authorization came from my computer terminal. On a date when Sloane had supposedly been at a lunch meeting with witnesses. My terminal. Login. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago, before I'd ever used Sloane's password. "I've never heard of Meridian Consulting," I said quietly. Sloane's voice broke. "The company was registered using your personal information, Audrey. Your name is on the filing paperwork." She'd done her homework. This wasn't a simple frame job. This was sophisticated, calculated, and designed to bury me completely. The walk of shame happened within an hour. Security escorted me to my desk to collect personal items while everyone watched. My coworkers stared with shocked faces, then looked away quickly. Some had known me for 3 years. None of them defended me. I packed my photos, my coffee mug, my plant. Security watched my every move. As I walked toward the elevator, Sloane appeared beside me, speaking so quietly only I could hear. "I'll make sure you never work in finance again. Try to fight this, and I'll destroy whatever's left of your reputation." I turned to face her. She expected anger, tears, begging. Instead, I smiled slightly. "Okay, Sloane. We'll see how this plays out." Her confident expression flickered for just a second. Then the elevator doors closed between us. She had no idea that I'd spent 6 months preparing for exactly this moment. I went home to my quiet apartment and didn't panic. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone in desperation. Instead, I made a cup of tea, sat at my kitchen table, and opened my encrypted laptop. The Dead Man's Switch folder contained everything. 6 months of BCC'd emails proving Sloane had ordered me to hide the budget discrepancy. Screen recordings of our conversations. Original documents showing where she'd edited my compliance warnings. Metadata proving I'd flagged the problem repeatedly while she'd ignored it. I had timestamps showing exactly when files were modified and by whom. Most importantly, I had proof that the mysterious Meridian Consulting transaction had happened from Sloane's computer, not mine, on a Friday night when I'd been logged in as her, following her direct instructions. She'd created a paper trail leading to me. But I'd created a paper trail proving she'd created it. I reached out to someone I'd met at a company training seminar 2 years ago. Julian Cross, the head of internal audit at our corporate headquarters. He was legendary, a grizzled, terrifying man who'd taken down 3 executives for embezzlement. He'd given me his card once, saying, "If you ever see something wrong, call me. I don't care about politics." Kept that card. Now I needed it. I sent him an encrypted email with a simple subject line, "Prescott and Associates, fraud alert." Attached was a summary of evidence. He responded within 20 minutes. "Coffee. Tomorrow. Come alone." We met at a diner 40 minutes outside the city, away from anyone who might recognize us. Julian was in his 60s, sharp-eyed, and didn't waste time. "Show me everything. Open my laptop." He spent 2 hours reviewing my files, his expression getting darker by the minute. Julian looked up from the screen, his face grim. "Your manager didn't just frame you. She accidentally triggered a massive federal tax violation." He pointed to specific transactions. "This money she tried to hide. It was supposed to go to a mandatory IRS escrow account for multi-state tax deposits. By burying it in overhead, she violated federal filing requirements." My stomach dropped. "How bad?" He leaned back. "The kind of bad that carries jail time. The IRS doesn't play games with this. If they audit Project Titan, and they will because the filings are already wrong, they'll find this immediately." He looked at me seriously. "Your manager tried to pin financial fraud on you, but what she actually did was commit federal tax fraud. And the paper trail you built proves she knew exactly what she was doing." Felt dizzy. "What do we do?" Julian smiled grimly. "We wait. And we let her dig herself deeper." For 2 weeks I stayed quiet. I didn't post on social media. I didn't reach out to former colleagues. I didn't defend myself publicly. Silence was its own kind of weapon. Meanwhile, Sloane was celebrating. I heard through Marcus that she'd been promoted to senior vice president. There was a company-wide email praising her ethical leadership and commitment to accountability. She posted a photo on LinkedIn of her new nameplate with a caption about rising above adversity. She thought the Audrey problem was solved. Buried. She had no idea that Julian had already submitted a formal audit request to corporate headquarters. She had no idea that federal investigators had been quietly notified about potential tax violations. She was celebrating her victory while the walls were already closing in. I spent those 2 weeks preparing my documentation, organizing evidence, and waiting for the phone to ring. The call came on a Thursday. An emergency audit team from headquarters would be arriving Monday to verify the loss for insurance purposes. Sloane thought it was routine. She emailed the whole team about cooperating fully and presenting a united front. She even sent me a brief, cold message. "If anyone contacts you, refer them to our legal team. Don't make this worse for yourself." I didn't respond. Julian texted me. "It's starting. Stay ready." The audit team arrived Monday morning, 5 people with laptops and boxes of files. Sloane greeted them warmly, playing the concerned executive who discovered fraud and reported it properly. She'd prepared a presentation about recovery plans and improved oversight procedures. She was so confident, so certain she'd covered every angle. She had no idea these auditors already knew everything. They were just letting her perform before they pulled the floor out from under her. By Tuesday afternoon, the auditors hit their first roadblock. They needed access to the secondary archive server, a backup system I'd built to store original versions of all project documents. Sloane was in the conference room when the lead auditor asked for the password. Her face went slightly pale. "I'm sure it's in our IT documentation." But it wasn't, because I'd built that server on my own initiative, using my personal encryption keys. I documented its existence in emails to Sloan that she'd ignored. The IT director was called in. He looked uncomfortable. That was Audrey's project. She managed the security protocols. Sloan tried to laugh it off. Well, surely IT has override access. The director shook his head. She designed it specifically to prevent unauthorized access. Company policy. She followed proper procedure. Sloan's confident mask cracked slightly. Those servers contained the original files, the ones proving she'd edited documents after the fact. And she couldn't access them. My phone rang at 7 p.m. Tuesday. Sloan's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Audrey. How are you doing? Her voice was friendly, almost desperate. I've been fine, Sloan. Silence. Then, listen, we're dealing with this audit situation and I need the password to that archive server you set up. Just to help the process move smoothly. I sipped my tea. I don't work there anymore, remember? Her voice tightened. I know, but this is important. We're all trying to resolve this situation. I let the silence stretch. The situation where you accused me of stealing $1 million. She tried a different approach. Look, let's be adults. I need that password. I smiled at my phone. You should ask the IT department. I documented everything properly before I left. Her voice rose. You didn't leave, you were escorted out. Hung up. She called back immediately. I blocked the number. Let her panic. Wednesday morning, Sloan was presenting her recovery plan to the investors and senior partners. Julian had texted me at 6 a.m. Be at the office by 10. Wear your best suit. I arrived at 9:45. Walking through the lobby, I'd been escorted out of 2 weeks earlier. Security recognized me and looked confused. I'm expected, I said calmly, showing them the official email from Julian. They let me through. I walked to conference room A, where Sloan's presentation was happening. Through the glass wall, I could see her gesturing at slides, looking confident. Then the door opened. I walked in wearing my navy power suit, flanked by 2 corporate attorneys I'd never met. Every head turned. Sloan's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, fear. Her presentation froze mid-sentence. What is she doing here? She demanded. The CEO spoke calmly. She's here to present evidence. Sit down, Sloan. This shouldn't take long. I connected my laptop to the projector. My hands were steady. The logs Ms. Anderson presented as evidence of my theft were edited. I pulled up the metadata comparison. This log shows I accessed the system on March 15th. But the software version used to create this log wasn't installed until March 23rd. I let that sink in. 8 days after I was fired. Sloan interrupted. That's impossible. The IT department can confirm. I continued calmly. The IT department can confirm that their system tracks all software installations. This editing software was only installed on 1 computer in the entire office. I showed the installation logs. Ms. Anderson's laptop. 3 days after my termination. One of the attorneys spoke. We verified this independently. The digital fingerprint proves these logs were fabricated post-termination. Sloan's face had gone pale. I don't understand technology. Someone must have. I cut her off. The edits were made using your unique password. Your fingerprint scanner verified the access. She had no response. Then I showed them the truth about the money. The $1.2 million isn't in a shell company. It never was. I pulled up the IRS correspondence. It's sitting in a frozen federal escrow account because we missed a mandatory filing deadline for multi-state tax deposits. I showed the email chain. I flagged this issue to Ms. Anderson 10 times over 6 weeks. Each email was timestamped, each one showing Sloan's response, variations of handle it, not urgent or simply ignored. The final notice from the IRS arrived March 10th. Ms. Anderson deleted it. I showed the recovery logs from her deleted folder. The document was right there, timestamp intact. Instead of filing properly, she ordered me to hide the discrepancy in overhead costs, which I refused to do. The room was silent. The lead auditor spoke quietly. Ms. Anderson, why did you tell us this money was stolen when you had federal notice that it was in IRS escrow? Sloane's face transformed. The color drained from her skin so completely she looked like she might faint. She stopped breathing for a second, literally holding her breath as her brain tried to process how thoroughly she'd been caught. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Finally she managed. I didn't see that notice. I deleted it by accident. I spoke calmly. Your computer logs show you opened that document 6 times. You read it. Then you moved it to trash and emptied the trash to prevent recovery. The corporate attorney continued. You then fabricated evidence to blame Ms. Audrey for theft. You filed false reports with insurance investigators. You damaged an employee's reputation to cover your own negligence. Sloane tried to recover. This is ridiculous. She's clearly manipulated these files. Julian's voice cut across the room. Every document has been verified by 3 independent forensic analysts. Time to stop talking, Ms. Anderson. Sloane pivoted desperately. The IT department must have made errors in the logs. This is their fault. The IT director standing by the door stepped forward. Actually, Ms. Anderson, Audrey contacted us 6 weeks ago asking us to monitor your access logs. We've been documenting everything. He pulled out a tablet. We have video footage from your office computer's webcam showing you editing the transaction logs. Timestamp. Date stamp. You're on video committing fraud. Sloane's lawyer tried to interrupt. The CEO held up his hand. No. Let him finish. The IT director continued. We also have recordings of your phone calls with Audrey where you explicitly ordered her to falsify documents. She informed us she was being asked to commit fraud. We began monitoring immediately. Standard protocol. Sloane looked around the room, searching for an ally. Every face was either disgusted or coldly neutral. Her career was ending in real time, and she knew it. The CEO's voice was ice. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. He looked at Sloane. You ordered an employee to commit fraud. When she refused, you fabricated evidence to frame her for theft. You filed false insurance claims. You deleted federal tax notices, causing $1 million compliance violation. Then you lied to corporate investigators. He paused. Have I missed anything? The corporate attorney added. The falsified evidence alone is grounds for criminal charges. The tax violation could result in federal prosecution. The defamation case Ms. Audrey could file would cost millions. The CEO stood. Ms. Anderson, you need to leave. Now. Sloane's voice cracked. You can't fire me. I've been with this company for 8 years. The CEO looked at her coldly. And in those 8 years, how many people did you steal credit from? How many did you throw under the bus? He gestured to security. Clear out your desk. You have 1 hour. As security prepared to escort Sloane out, she turned to me desperately. Audrey, please. You know how hard it is for women in finance. We have to stick together. Be a girl's girl. I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who'd stolen my work, destroyed my reputation, and tried to send me to prison. I'm not a girl's girl, Sloane. Kept my voice level. I'm an accountant. And the math doesn't favor you. He tried again. If you help me, I can make this right. We can say it was all a misunderstanding. I shook my head. The math is pretty clear. You committed fraud. You falsified documents. You filed false reports. Those are facts, not opinions. Her desperation turned to anger. You'll never work in this industry again. I'll make sure. Julian cut her off. You're not in a position to make sure of anything. You're about to be criminally prosecuted. I'd suggest you call a lawyer. Security took her arm. Ma'am, time to go. After Sloane was escorted out, the CEO turned to me. Audrey, we owe you an apology. And significant compensation. The corporate attorneys slid papers across the table. We're prepared to offer you Ms. Anderson's former position as Senior Vice President, with immediate effect. Salary increase of 40%. Full benefits, plus a settlement for wrongful termination and defamation. The number on the settlement was staggering, enough to change my life. We're also prepared to issue public statements clearing your name and praising your integrity. The CEO added, "You saved this company from a federal investigation that could have destroyed us. We want you to lead our compliance division." I looked at the papers. Everything I'd worked for, offered on a silver platter. The vindication was sweet. The recognition was real. But something had shifted in me during those 2 weeks of silence. I'd learned something important about my own value. I looked at the CEO and the attorneys. "Thank you for the offer. I'll accept the settlement. But I'm declining the position." They looked surprised. I continued calmly. "I'm starting my own forensic accounting and compliance consulting firm. I've already registered the business and secured office space." Julian was smiling slightly. He'd known. "However," I added, "I'm happy to offer my services on a contract basis." I slid my own proposal across the table. "I'll audit your entire leadership team, department by department. I'll identify compliance gaps, train staff, and build systems to prevent this from happening again." I named my rate. It was triple my old salary. Per month. The CEO looked at the number, then at me. "That's considerably more than we'd pay an employee." He nodded. "Yes, but I'm not an employee anymore. I'm an owner. And my track record speaks for itself." They accepted within an hour. I walked out of that building not as someone who'd been rescued, but as someone who'd rescued herself. And I was never going to be anyone's invisible safety net again.